Parsley has a reputation for being one of the hardest herbs to germinate. Most gardeners wait 3 to 6 weeks for sprouts that never come. They blame the seeds, they blame the soil, they buy new packets and try again. The seeds were never the problem. There are 10 specific tricks that change everything about parsley germination and growth, and virtually every popular parsley video skips at least 7 of them. Once you know these 10, parsley becomes one of the easiest, most productive herbs in your entire garden. Drop a comment right now and tell me what country you are watching from. Parsley behavior varies significantly by climate, and I want to address your specific situation directly. Why parsley defeats most gardeners and why it does not have to. Search how to grow parsley and you will find the same recycled instructions everywhere. Plant in well-drained soil, keep moist, wait 3 to 4 weeks, thin seedlings when they appear. Gardeners follow those instructions exactly and still wait 6 weeks for nothing, or they get sparse, uneven germination, or the seedlings emerge and then collapse within 2 weeks of appearing. Here's the truth that those guides are missing. Parsley seeds contain a naturally occurring germination inhibitor, a chemical compound in the seed coat that suppresses germination until specific conditions signal that the environment is safe for growth. This inhibitor evolved to prevent parsley seeds from germinating in conditions that would not sustain the seedling long enough to establish. Most gardeners are planting parsley seeds directly into the ground without removing or bypassing this inhibitor first. That is why germination takes 3 to 6 weeks. That is why germination rates are low. That is why entire seed packets produce a handful of plants. Every trick I'm covering today either removes that inhibitor, bypasses it, or creates the exact conditions that trigger the seed to override it naturally. That is the framework. Now let's go through all 10. Trick 1. The hot water soak that dissolves the germination inhibitor. This is the single most impactful trick on this entire list, and it is absent from most parsley growing guides. Parsley's germination inhibitor is water-soluble. It dissolves when exposed to hot water. Removing it before planting eliminates the primary chemical barrier to fast germination. Here's the exact method. Boil water. Allow it to cool for exactly 2 minutes. You want water that is hot but not boiling, approximately 80 to 85 degrees Celsius. Pour this water over your parsley seeds in a heat-proof bowl. Allow the seeds to soak for 24 hours as the water cools to room temperature. The hot water penetrates the seed coat and dissolves the germination inhibitor. Seeds treated this way germinate in 7 to 10 days rather than 3 to 6 weeks. Here's where most people get this wrong. They use boiling water directly on the seeds. Boiling water at 100 degrees Celsius damages the embryo inside the seed. The 2-minute cooling period is not optional. It brings the water to the temperature that dissolves the inhibitor without cooking the seed. After the 24-hour soak, plant immediately. Soaked seeds that dry out before planting reactivate their dormancy mechanisms and partially reverse the inhibitor removal. Trick 2. The freezing pre-treatment for outdoor planting. This trick works through a completely different mechanism than the hot water soak and produces comparable germination speed improvement through natural biological signaling. In its native environment, parsley seeds overwinter in the ground and germinate in spring when temperatures rise. This cold requirement is called stratification. For outdoor planting in cool climates, you can simulate this signal artificially before planting, rather than waiting for it to occur naturally over winter. Place your parsley seeds in a damp paper towel, fold the towel around the seeds, seal inside a plastic bag, and place in the refrigerator, not the freezer, at 4 to 5 degrees Celsius for 2 weeks before your intended planting date. This 2-week cold period completes the stratification signal. When planted after stratification, seeds interpret the warming soil as the spring signal they've been waiting for. Germination accelerates significantly compared to unstratified seeds planted at the same time. Here's where most people get this wrong. They refrigerate dry seeds. The damp paper towel is essential. Stratification requires moisture alongside cold to activate the biological processes inside the seed. Dry cold storage does not produce the same germination response. This trick and trick 1 are complementary. Use the hot water soak for indoor growing where you control temperature. Use refrigerator stratification for seeds destined for outdoor beds where natural cold will be part of the growing cycle. Trick 3. The light requirement most guides get backwards. This is the trick that explains more failed parsley germination attempts than any other factor besides the inhibitor problem. Parsley seeds are light-sensitive germinators. They require light exposure at the soil surface to activate final germination. This is a biological mechanism identical to the celery germination requirement. Most guides tell you to cover parsley seeds with a thin layer of soil after planting. That instruction actively suppresses germination by blocking the light signal the seeds need to activate germination. Press parsley seeds gently onto the surface of moist medium. Do not cover with soil. Do not press them below the surface. Surface contact with moist medium plus exposure to light from above is the exact condition that triggers germination. The seeds are small enough that surface planting doesn't leave them exposed to drying out if you maintain consistent surface moisture using a fine mist spray rather than direct watering. Here's where most people get this wrong. They confuse surface planting with insufficient coverage. The seeds look exposed and vulnerable sitting on top of the medium. They are not. They are in exactly the position they need to be in. Covering them even by 2 millimeters of soil reduces germination rate by 40 to 50%. Trick 4. The soil temperature that triggers maximum germination. Parsley has a specific soil temperature window for optimal germination that most guides never quantify precisely. The optimal soil temperature for parsley germination is between 21 and 24 degrees Celsius at the soil surface. Below 18 degrees, germination slows dramatically. This is why outdoor spring planting in cool climates produces erratic results, even when all other conditions are correct. Above 27 degrees, germination rate drops as heat stress affects the seed embryo. Most gardeners planting parsley indoors on a windowsill assume room temperature is adequate. Windowsill temperature is typically 18 to 20 degrees Celsius, below the optimal range. Seeds germinate eventually, but slowly and unevenly. The fix? Use a seedling heat mat set to 22 degrees Celsius under your seed tray. This single adjustment brings soil surface temperature into the optimal germination band, regardless of room temperature. Here's where most people get this wrong. They set the heat mat and leave it running continuously through the entire growing period after germination. Heat mats accelerate germination, but established parsley seedlings prefer cooler root zone temperatures of 15 to 18 degrees Celsius for vigorous growth. Remove the heat mat once most of the seeds have germinated. Trick 5. The container depth that determines long-term plant health. This trick affects not germination, but everything that happens after germination, and it is the reason parsley seedlings that start well decline at 6 weeks in the wrong container. Parsley develops a deep taproot, a single central root that drives downward significantly further than most herb root systems. This taproot anchors the plant, stores nutrients, and determines the plant's long-term vigor and flavor intensity. Minimum container depth for parsley, 25 centimeters, approximately 10 inches. This depth accommodates full taproot development through the productive life of the plant. Here's where most people get this wrong. They start parsley in standard shallow seed cells and transplant later to deeper containers. Transplanting parsley damages the taproot. Any significant taproot damage sets the plant back 4 to 6 weeks while it regenerates root mass. Parsley is one of the herbs that resents transplanting most. Start in the final deep container from the beginning wherever possible. Direct seed into a deep container using the surface planting method from Trick 3, and the plant establishes without any transplant setback. Trick 6. The companion planting that doubles parsley yield. This trick is completely absent from every parsley growing guide I have found, and it is one of the most practically useful on this list. Parsley planted alongside specific companion plants produces measurably more leaf material than parsley grown in isolation. The mechanism is not mystical, it is biological and specific. Chives planted adjacent to parsley release sulfur compounds through their root systems into the surrounding soil. These sulfur compounds suppress the soil-borne fungal species that cause damping off in parsley seedlings and root rot in established plants. Parsley growing in chive-conditioned soil experiences significantly less root disease pressure. Less root disease pressure means more root system integrity. More root system integrity means more vigorous leaf production. Parsley companion planted with chives consistently produces 30 to 40% more harvestable leaf material than solo planted parsley in the same conditions. Plant chives at a spacing of 15 centimeters from parsley plants, close enough for root-exudate interaction, far enough that the chive root system does not compete for the same nutrient zone as the parsley taproot. Here is where most people get this wrong. They plant chives and parsley in the same container with insufficient spacing. Overly close planting in a small container creates competition that cancels the companion benefit. The 15-centimeter minimum spacing is essential. Trick 7. The harvesting method that triggers continuous production. Most gardeners harvest parsley by cutting the tallest stems from the top of the plant. This harvesting method actively suppresses regrowth and reduces total yield across the season. Here is the biological reason. Parsley produces leaves from the center of the plant outward. New growth emerges from the central growing point, and the youngest leaves are always in the center. Outer leaves are the oldest. Cutting the tallest outer stems removes the oldest tissue, which is correct, but random top harvesting often removes inner stems along with outer ones, damaging the central growth point. The correct harvesting technique that triggers maximum regrowth. Cut stems at the base of the plant at soil level rather than cutting at mid-stem height. Select the outermost stems only. Leave all central stems and any stem shorter than 15 centimeters completely untouched. Base cutting at the outer stems removes the oldest tissue cleanly and signals the plant to produce replacement stems from the central growing point immediately. Mid-stem cutting leaves a stub that does not regenerate. It simply dies back to the base over 2 weeks, wasting growing time. Here is where most people get this wrong. They harvest too aggressively in one session. Never remove more than 1/3 of the plant's total stem volume in a single harvest. Removing more than 1/3 stresses the plant and delays regrowth by 2 to 3 weeks. Consistent light harvesting every 7 to 10 days produces more total leaf material across the season than infrequent heavy harvesting. Trick 8. The watering schedule that prevents the most common parsley failure. Parsley is described as moisture-loving in most guides. That description is accurate but dangerously incomplete, and it is responsible for more parsley plant deaths than any other care instruction. Parsley needs consistent moisture at the root zone. It does not tolerate waterlogged conditions at the crown, the central growing point at soil level where leaves emerge. Water pooling at the crown for more than a few hours creates the conditions for crown rot, the most common cause of established parsley plant collapse. The watering method that maintains root zone moisture without crown saturation. Water at the base of the plant, directing water to the soil surface away from the central crown. Never water from above into the crown of established parsley plants. Overhead watering that pools in the crown is a direct rot risk. In containers, water until runoff appears from the drainage holes. Allow the top inch of medium to dry between waterings. The top inch drying protects the crown zone, while the deeper root zone, where the taproot operates, retains adequate moisture between sessions. Here is where most people get this wrong. They water on a fixed schedule regardless of soil conditions. Parsley in a sunny, warm location may need watering every 2 days. Parsley in a shaded, cool location may need watering every 5 days. The top inch drying test is the only reliable guide, not a calendar. Trick 9. The feeding approach that intensifies flavor. Most gardeners either do not feed parsley at all or apply the same balanced fertilizer they use for every other plant. Both approaches produce parsley that grows adequately but never reaches the intense aromatic flavor that makes homegrown parsley noticeably superior to shop-bought. Here is what drives parsley flavor intensity at the biological level. Parsley's characteristic flavor and aroma come from volatile compounds called apiole and myristicin, produced and stored in the leaf tissue. The production of these compounds is driven by two specific nutrients, potassium and sulfur. Potassium drives the cellular processes that produce volatile compounds. Sulfur is a direct building block in the molecular structure of several of the most flavorful compounds. The feeding approach that maximizes both. From week 4 after germination, water every 3 weeks with wood ash tea. 2 cups of hardwood ash steeped in 1 liter of water for 24 hours, strained and applied as a soil drench. Wood ash delivers potassium and calcium simultaneously in plant-available form. Every 6 weeks, apply a diluted seaweed extract drench, 1 tablespoon for 4 liters of water. Seaweed extract contains the full spectrum of micronutrients, including sulfur in organic form. Here is where most people get this wrong. They use high nitrogen fertilizer for parsley. Nitrogen drives rapid leafy growth, but dilutes the volatile compound concentration in leaf tissue. Fast-grown nitrogen-fed parsley is large and pale with mild flavor. Slow-grown potassium and sulfur-fed parsley is more compact with intensely aromatic leaves. Less volume, more flavor. Trick 10. The overwintering method that gives you parsley year-round. Parsley is a biennial. It completes its life cycle over 2 years. In the first year, it produces leaves. In the second year, it flowers, sets seed, and dies. Most gardeners treat it as an annual, discarding plants at the end of the first season and starting again from seed the following year. This is the practice that forces constant restarting from the slowest germinating common herb available. Here is the trick that eliminates that cycle. In the first autumn, before hard frost arrives, pot up your best parsley plants into deep containers if they are not already in them. Move containers to a sheltered location, against a south-facing wall, under a cold frame, or inside a cool greenhouse or porch. The goal is to keep root zone temperature above -5 degrees Celsius through winter. Parsley plants in sheltered containers continue producing leaves through mild winter periods and resume vigorous production in early spring before any new seeds would have even germinated. In spring, the overwintered plant enters its second-year growth phase. It will attempt to flower and set seed, a process called bolting. When you see a central flower stalk beginning to emerge, cut it immediately at its base. This removal redirects the plant's energy from seed production back into leaf production for several additional weeks. You can delay bolting through repeated flower stalk removal for 4 to 6 additional weeks of productive leaf harvest. After the third or fourth flower stalk removal, the plant's seed drive becomes too strong to redirect, and it bolts fully. At that point, allow one plant to flower and set seed fully. Collect those seeds. You now have next season's planting stock from your own garden at zero cost. Here is where most people get this wrong. They allow the first flower stalk to develop fully before removing it. By the time the stalk is visible and elongating, the plant has already committed significant energy to the reproductive cycle. Removing the stalk at first emergence when it is just 2 to 3 centimeters tall captures most of that energy before it is spent. Common errors that defeat all 10 tricks. Planting parsley seeds without the hot water soak and then blaming slow germination on bad seeds. The seeds are almost always viable. The inhibitor is always present. Soak first. Using shallow containers and wondering why plants decline at 6 weeks. The taproot hits the base. Move to containers a minimum of 25 centimeters from the start. Harvesting from the top and leaving the base. This removes the wrong tissue. Always cut from the base outward. Always leave the center untouched. Overhead watering directly into the crown of established plants. Crown rot develops in hours in wet conditions. Direct water to the soil surface away from the central crown. Feeding with high nitrogen fertilizer for larger plants. Larger is not better with parsley. More nitrogen means more volume and less flavor. Potassium and sulfur feeds produce the intensity that makes homegrown parsley worth growing. Discarding first-year plants at the end of the season. Overwintered second-year plants are more productive, more flavorful, and save you the entire germination waiting period the following spring. Here are all 10 tricks together. Trick 1. Hot water soak at 80 to 85 degrees for 24 hours dissolves the germination inhibitor and cuts germination time from weeks to days. Trick 2. 2-week refrigerator stratification on damp paper towel completes the cold signal that triggers fast spring germination in outdoor planted seeds. Trick 3. Surface planting with no soil cover provides the light signal that parsley seeds require to initiate germination. Covering them suppresses it. Trick 4. Seedling heat mat at 22 degrees Celsius during germination brings soil temperature into the optimal range regardless of room temperature. Remove after germination. Trick 5. Deep containers of minimum 25 centimeters from the start accommodate full taproot development without the transplant setback that destroys taproot integrity. Trick 6. Chives planted 15 centimeters from parsley release root exudates that suppress fungal disease pressure and increase parsley leaf yield by 30 to 40%. Trick 7. Base harvesting of outer stems only, never more than 1/3 of the plant, triggers immediate regrowth from the central growing point. Trick 8. Watering at the soil surface away from the crown with a top-inch dryness test between sessions maintains root moisture without the crown saturation that causes rot. Trick 9. Wood ash tea every 3 weeks plus seaweed extract every 6 weeks drives the potassium and sulfur production of volatile flavor compounds. High nitrogen fertilizer dilutes them. Trick 10. Overwintered plants in sheltered containers plus immediate flower stalk removal at emergence extends productive life through the second year and produces your own seed stock at zero cost. 10 tricks, every one of them specific, every one backed by the mechanism that makes it work. Subscribe right now for more specific growing methods that produce real results every single week. Comment below, Tell me your country and tell me which of these 10 tricks you are applying first. I read every single comment. Use just one of these this week, and your parsley will never be the same.